Hello, everybody, and out of this binary. Hi, it's Jo. Welcome to the weekend. Woo! We made it. You did it. You did it. You did it. You did it. So this week we are talking about TERF. We've been talking about TERF. So I had never heard that term before in my life, and so I had to look it up and do some research, which is really fun. I love researching. So I'm going to share research I did. And I actually tried to do research about what radical feminists have to say about TERF because I wanted to know. So I'm going to try and give you that look as much as that look alongside of things. You know, here we go. Do you like my giant ass notebook? Look how huge this is. Isn't it beautiful? Oh. Okay, so TERF, that word, that acronym, stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. I like that noise. And the first thing I read about on Google, like, you know, you type something into Google and it'll like give you the definition in bold at the top or something. So it gave me this quote, which said, "Let's not pretend that TERF is an objective description of a theoretical standpoint. It's an insult, a term of abuse meant to undermine, dismiss, and erase radical feminist voices. TERF is an acronym for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists." So, when I read that, I was like, okay, so there's a group of people who are feeling abused and insulted by a term we trans people are using. So I was like, I'd like to know why they feel that way. So I read this blog article written by this person. It's linked below if you want to read it, because I found it really interesting. And this person explained it. This is some like direct quoting some, what is that word? Summarizing? You know, you'll figure it out. A radical feminist analysis says that feminism is a movement to liberate women from oppression, and female biological reality is a defining aspect of women's experience of oppression. This does not exclude trans women on the basis of prejudice or discrimination any more than it does men. So, let me break this down, because I was confused. What this is saying is that the goal of feminism as a movement is to liberate women from the oppression of men. Additionally, it says one of the ways that women are oppressed is through their biology. I'm assuming that means like a uterus, a vagina, like a labia, clitoris, like what we have been taught to think of as female genitalia and reproductive systems. Oh yeah, ovaries are in there too. And not having, like, that comes with it not having what we think of as traditionally masculine genitalia, like a penis, testicles. That's all I know. Sorry about my lack of knowledge of anatomy. Okay, so then it finishes up by saying that this does not exclude trans women on the basis of prejudice or discrimination any more than it does men. What that is saying, this is what I found really interesting, because this is where she was talking about why the movement isn't transphobia, is because they're like drawing the line on the basis of biology, not on the basis of gender, and gender expression and whatever. So they're saying that it's not transmisogyny or transphobia because this also applies to men. Men cannot be liberated by radical feminism because men do not need it because men do not have a uterus or a vagina or blah blah blah. And like essentially it kind of comes down to like the way that like having a menstrual cycle or being able to carry children, the way those things are used to oppress people. I'll get into that in a minute though. This is probably going to be a long video. Oh well, I was really interested in this issue. Hope you are too. The article went on to talk about how woman as a gender, women, it's a construct of man, like the patriarchal men, blah blah blah, came up with the two gender system to begin with, male and female, man, woman. And so the gender woman is a construct of man, so it was like claiming gender identity at all was playing into the patriarchy, the power that the patriarchy has. That's where I was like, it was kind of undermining itself, because I'm like, well, you're claiming woman, woman, woman so much, and like saying that the trans movement itself is faulted because it's about gender identity. And what feminism is about, I feel like it was trying to say, is about biology. That's probably not getting all the nuances entirely correctly. It's simplifying. But that's where this is kind of, like, that's where the line between trans and woman is coming down to. And that's what I found really interesting, because at that point then, like, this radical feminism is meant for people with uteruses, vaginas, ovaries, like people with these parts, which they are calling woman. Like, they're saying that's the definition of woman, and in that definition a trans woman can't be a woman, so therefore this movement is not for trans women. And additionally, it was almost, it seemed to be saying that trans women do not need liberation from oppression in the same way that men do not need liberation from oppression because of biology. Yeah, that's my summary of what I learned from that article by this radical feminist, which was interesting. I wrote down my thoughts and some problems I had with that, because I like to write things down when I'm researching, and I love my giant sexy notebook. Okay, so here's some thoughts I had. Ultimately, the trans community and the radical feminist community, like, we have the same need, desire, we're fighting for the same thing, which is that none of us want to be oppressed anymore. We all want to be free to live our fucking lives and not, like, be harassed, not be injured, not feel unsafe, not be killed because of who we are. Additionally, it seemed to be saying that people who are able to menstruate and able to carry children, or people who have a, I'm sorry I'm saying uterus so much, it makes my dysphoria act up. I'm sorry if it's doing that to you. I put a trigger warning in the beginning to help us all with this. Anyways, it's saying that people with the ability to menstruate, or people who have a uterus and a vagina, those people have unique needs in the face of gender oppression, and it's really important to recognize those needs. So this would be like access to health care, access to birth control, access to abortion, access access and not being discriminated because of, like, being allowed to go home because of menstrual pain, being allowed to go home because of, being allowed to have enough time off after giving birth to a child and having to raise that child. Like, in that point too, I'm like, yeah, those needs are very particular, unique, and important to recognize. However, not all people who have those parts, or who are having periods or having babies, not all those people are women, and because of this movement excluding non-women from its movement, people who, like, I'm included in this. I'm not a woman. I don't identify as feminine, female at all. I'm non-binary. I'm galaxy gender. And so, but I still have a lot of the same parts that, like, I have a uterus, I have a vagina. Like, I have needs for safe access to that kind of health care. And there are lots of other people, trans people, there are men who have uteruses, there are lots of people, lots of needs, and, like, having a woman-only movement for women-only, liberating, and, like, having it defined on biology and the term woman, it doesn't work because the biology isn't exclusionary to women. There are lots of people with these needs who aren't women. And so what it does is it's essentializing oppression and gender experience with genitalia. And we've talked about this on this channel before, and this was something I had to learn, I've just in this last year, I think, that, like, if you essentialize people down to their genitalia, and that's like separating sex and gender, then so much gets erased. So many people don't get to exist then, like intersex people or intersex people. And then, like, it isn't true that trans women don't face discrimination, like misogyny, that women, cis women face. Trans women and cis women are all women, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but whenever a trans woman is like publicized and comes out publicly, she is, like, her appearance is scrutinized. People want to know what her clothes are like where her makeup is like, how she got her body to look this amazing way. And it is exactly the same kind of scrutiny that cis women face when they are in the public media. Like, it isn't different, and like, it isn't different. I already said this, but it definitely ignores the existence of intersex people and non-binary people. So there are additionally, like, non-binary people who have gender, who are gender fluid, or who, there are an infinite number of genders out there, who have the same needs, like for liberation from oppression, for reproduction rights, for access to healthcare. And like, calling a movement for women only excludes this whole beautiful group of people who could also be part of a movement. Like, yeah. And who need the movement just as much as radical feminists need the movement. So by calling the construct of gender a power play of the patriarchy, essentially, it erases, it like makes all of gender a negative thing, and erases the positive experiences of gender. It's like it makes all of gender dysphoria, and it erases any type of euphoria you might feel from gender. So like, I know there are plenty of cis women who feel gender euphoria about being a woman. It's a beautiful experience. It's something to be celebrated and to be safe in, and to have just as much rights to your life and just as much rights to be a woman if that's who you are, and if that's how you get the most joy, not joy, I hate that word, if that's how you get the most happy out of your life. So by making all of gender a negative construct, it erases all the positive experiences of gender you can have. So like, my gender, first of all, is a construct of my own making, and isn't in my own language, and it makes me feel so happy to have my gender and to get to talk about it and live in it and write about it and be it. I love that experience, and to not have that experience, to not get to have language around that, would be a loss for me, it was a loss in my past. So like, I don't think erasing gender from our personhood, maybe it did originally come about because of wanting to separate people from people, and it is still separating people from people, but it doesn't have to be that way, because gender, like, the power of the trans movement and the beauty of being trans people together and having whatever genders we have, is that it takes whatever power was, like, whatever division and oppression was existing in the two-gender system, and it, like, blows it up, I guess. Because now, like, we have power over our gender, which means we have power over our entire lives. And we are getting more power over our entire lives. And that means that, like, oppression for everybody will be getting better, is getting better, because there's more option than one or two. There's more option than A or B. And that is because trans people exist. That is because trans people talk about their experiences. That is because we stand in all of the spaces around these 1 and 2 options and say, look, here we are, and here is the rest of us, and you don't have to be, like, here we are. So that is like my final, I guess, critique of the movement, the movement, is that it is that it ignores the way trans people are liberating everybody. It ignores the beautiful part we have to play in the gender movement, in finding a way beyond oppression, beyond gender oppression, into, like, free and supportive gender expression. Yeah, that's all. I have no idea how long this was. I feel like I've just been talking for a while. We are always looking for new topic ideas. Please, if you have any, leave them below. Let us know what you want us to talk about. We really like your suggestions. Yeah, that's all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I hope I do too. I have a lot of homework to do. Da-da-da! Believe in yourself. It's gonna be okay. This is Jo with Out of This Binary. See you next weekend. Bye!